Researchers who take Bigfoot seriously don't take every alleged Bigfoot video seriously. In fact, they're often the first to call foul on the fakers. So when they tell us they've seen video they think is legit, we take a look too.
From a massive figure moving through deep snow to mysterious voices in the night, footage after footage is surfacing, clips so crisp, so detailed, even the researchers who usually roll their eyes at Bigfoot sightings are suddenly paying attention. So before any of this gets buried, flagged, or mysteriously taken down, let's break down the clips that left wildlife specialists stunned. Brandon's encounter. Let's start with Brandon, who was just enjoying a scenic train ride from Florida through southwest Colorado. Nothing unusual, just mountains, trees, and calm views out the window. Then suddenly, something caught his eye. Something that didn't make sense. His brain went into overdrive. Was it an animal? A person? Something else? With the train still moving and shaking, he quickly pulled out his phone and hit record, hoping to figure out later what he had actually seen. Even though it was tough to hold the camera steady, the clip he captured ended up being clearer than almost every Bigfoot video floating around online. But here's the twist. After filming it, Brandon didn't want attention. He didn't want internet fame. He didn't want interviews. He didn't want chaos. So he made his Instagram private and only shared the clip with a few people. One of them was his grandpa. Growing up, Brandon had heard all kinds of stories from him, especially about Florida's own local legend, the skunk ape. People had been reporting sightings for years, and his grandpa was one of the many who believed there was something out there. When Brandon sent him the video, his grandpa was excited, really excited. And the thing is, Brandon's clip wasn't the only one raising eyebrows. Tatra mountain footage. Back in 2009, at the Poland-Slovakia border, Justina Folger and her friend were hanging out near a creek, filming casually. The guy behind the camera seemed nervous even before anything strange happened. At first, neither of them realized what they had captured. But something in the trees was watching them. The moment the girl screamed, the creature vanished into the forest like it had been waiting for the right moment to disappear. Now, keep in mind, this was 2009. Cameras were shaky, autofocus was bad, and stabilization wasn't a thing. So when the video went viral, some people said the cameraman was just shaking too much, like someone trying too hard to pull off a hoax. But others argued the complete opposite. If you had seen something that your brain couldn't make sense of, your hands would shake too. And what really convinced people was the location. The area was remote. There were no native primates, nothing that should have looked even remotely like what was caught on camera. So, to many viewers, that clip felt a little too real. Bigfoot destroys the camper's tent. Then there was the clip that absolutely terrified people. A man who owned a piece of remote woodland had set up a campsite deep in his property. He had a trail camera attached to a tree just to keep an eye on the place while he was away. Most days, the camera picked up nothing more than a deer, a raccoon, maybe a passing fox. But this time, something else walked into the frame. The footage showed a massive, dark figure, Bigfoot-like, broad shoulders, long dark hair, dropping a huge tree branch directly onto the camper's tent. When zoomed in, the creature looked way bigger than any human. And when people compared its height to the tent, which was roughly 4 to 5 feet tall, the creature stood almost twice that size, around 8 to 9 feet. The clip was short, which led to plenty of speculation. Maybe the camera only recorded a few seconds after detecting motion, or maybe it ran out of storage. Either way, the moment it captured was enough to leave viewers frozen. Why was the creature so aggressive? One theory: the man had set up camp right in Bigfoot's territory. After watching the clip himself, he packed up and moved his campsite elsewhere on the property, hoping to avoid whatever had visited his tent that night. But that wasn't the end. More and more evidence kept appearing. Found Bigfoot by mistake. And then came the 2015 incident when a mushroom hunter in northern Illinois stumbled across something he was not expecting at all. While recording different mushroom species in the forest, the hunter noticed something odd. One of the mushrooms had a clean bite taken out of it. It looked fresh, like whatever had eaten it had been there only minutes before. He laughed it off and kept filming, focusing his camera on a mushroom glistening with water droplets. And then, everything changed. Out of nowhere, a loud scream ripped through the forest. Not a normal animal call, not something he recognized. It sounded like a creature in pain, and definitely nothing known to the area. The moment he heard it, his instincts kicked in. He didn't wait to investigate. He didn't stop to think. He did exactly what anyone with common sense would do. He got out of there immediately. Seeing a strange creature from far away is one thing, but having it scream back at you? That's something else entirely. Peekaboo, the Alberta trail camera. The next footage didn't come from a person. It came from a trail camera deep in west-central Alberta, Canada. Originally placed to study wolverines, the camera ended up capturing something completely unexpected. And when the video was highlighted on January 17, 2024, it caused a stir immediately. The clip starts when a large buck steps into frame, peeking out from behind a tree. It seems cautious, almost nervous before it retreats. But it wasn't nervous for no reason, because right behind that tree, something else was hiding. At first, the dark figure stayed perfectly still, completely motionless. But the moment the deer walked away, the creature moved. What the camera captured was massive, dark, fur-covered, and way too big to be anything familiar. For scale, the average buck is around 3 feet tall. Yet even on lower ground and crouching, the creature's head still rose much higher. If it stood up fully, it could easily be 7 to 8 feet tall. Whatever it was, it clearly didn't want to be seen. But the camera caught it anyway. Mountain Peak Bigfoot. Then comes another piece of footage, this time from high along the Wasatch Front. A man named John had sent researchers a video he filmed on a mountain peak, an area already connected to multiple Bigfoot sightings. His clip showed something unusual enough that a research team decided to check it out themselves. John and his friends explained that they were down in a valley at about 4,200 feet. They had spotted something moving far above them on a peak sitting around 9,000 feet. Using a spotting telescope, they zoomed in and recorded the figure as it moved horizontally across the snow, and then climbed straight up a steep, snowy slope. Because they didn't have specialized equipment, they held their camera lens directly to the telescope's viewfinder, doing whatever they could to capture the moment. The creature was nearly a mile higher than they were, about 5,200 feet above them. To even see it, they had to zoom more than 3 miles into the distance. What they recorded was shocking. The creature wasn't struggling, it wasn't sinking, it wasn't slowing down, it was running, fast, through almost 90 inches of snow like it was nothing. And that effortless speed is what grabbed their attention the most. As they focused more on the footage, the group felt a mix of amazement and excitement building. It just didn't make sense. Nothing and no one should be able to move that fast in snow that deep. Unless whatever they were watching was incredibly strong and unusually tall, the movement simply shouldn't have been possible. When the researchers finally received the footage for analysis, they were eager to dive into it. With so many hoaxes floating around online, they wanted to confirm whether this clip had any chance of being authentic. As they zoomed in to get a clearer look, they were trying to figure out exactly what they were dealing with. But even with all their experience, nothing prepared them for what showed up on the screen. Because there it was, a bipedal creature sprinting across the mountainside. The figure paused for only a moment, almost like it was catching its breath, and then suddenly took off again, bolting across the snow with surprising speed. The researchers were stunned. They already knew the snowfall in that area was roughly 90 inches deep, and knowing that, they understood just how impossible this movement should have been. For anything to move at that speed through thick, powdery snow, it would need extreme height, massive strength, and feet that sank deep into the ground with each step. But this creature wasn't just running, it was running uphill. The power and momentum it showed left everyone speechless. What could possibly move like that? To show just how difficult it would be for an ordinary person to move in that much snow, the team decided to run their own little experiment. They went hiking in the foothills east of Francis Peak at Hardscrabble Creek, where the snow was only about 18 inches deep, a fraction of what was seen in the footage. Sky, who stood a solid 6 feet tall and was built strong, tried walking through it. Even he struggled to move cleanly in snow that wasn't even 2 feet deep. Running was completely out of the question. And if Sky could barely walk in 18 inches, then whatever they saw running in nearly 5 times that depth had to be significantly taller and unbelievably stronger. The comparison only made the original footage even more shocking. After the footage made the rounds, people naturally began asking the same question. If the creature was really running across the snow, where were the tracks? Some recommended sending drones to scan the mountainside where the creature had been spotted. The area was steep and difficult for anyone to reach on foot, so aerial footage made the most sense. A helicopter pilot, fascinated by the video, decided to fly over the mountain to take a look. What he found stunned him. There were tracks. The winds at the peak were strong, and they were slowly wiping the prints away, but the trail was still visible enough to confirm something had moved across that slope. The tracks were real, and the evidence was there, even though it wouldn't last long. Despite all of this, the researchers made one thing clear. John never claimed the creature in the video was Bigfoot. He only captured what he saw, a large figure running uphill across a steep, icy mountainside covered in deep, windswept snow. And he also never insisted the massive footprints belonged to Bigfoot either. Even so, the evidence was hard to ignore. The steep terrain, the unusual trackway, and the creature's movement left everyone wondering what exactly had been filmed. Based on their experience, the researchers noted one final detail. The pattern of the trackway was consistent with what most realistic Bigfoot trackways look like. Trackways attributed to Bigfoot often showed long, powerful strides, the kind you'd only expect from something with a huge frame and long legs. Another detail stood out too. The footprints tended to line up in a straight single file, one foot placed directly in front of the other. It looked almost like the creature was walking a tightrope, a gait not seen in humans and not common in most animals either. To the researchers, these details were meaningful. Maybe one of these videos, or possibly both, were capturing the same kind of creature people had been reporting for decades. While the first group captured the figure from a long distance, someone from the Expedition Bigfoot team ended up much closer. Russell's close encounter. During one of their expeditions, the Expedition Bigfoot crew stumbled onto something that completely stunned them. After leaving their cabin, Russell headed north, following signs he believed came from two Bigfoots fighting. He wasn't guessing, he had physical evidence. A blood trail stretched northwest, leading him to a spot where he'd seen a large figure move between the trees. He kept tracking it toward the west side of the area, trying to figure out what exactly he was dealing with. There was just one problem. He had been out of contact with his team for more than 27 hours. When he finally reconnected with the rest of the crew, he filled them in on everything he had experienced: the sounds, the blood trail, the movement, the direction of travel. With that information, the cameraman started scanning the trees, trying to locate the creature while it was still on the move. He used the full power of his camera's long-range lens, zooming in as far as he could. For a while, he saw nothing but branches, shadows, and thick forest. But then, after several tense moments, he saw something. He caught it. And the crew erupted with excitement, because whatever it wasn't a bear. When they slowed the footage down and examined it frame by frame, the differences became even clearer. The creature didn't have the posture of a bear, nor did it have the short, rounded legs bears are known for. Instead, it had long, straight legs and walked on 2 feet in a steady, confident stride. Its head's shape didn't resemble a bear's head at all. And then came the detail that sealed it for them: the arm swing. The creature's arms moved in a long, fluid motion, something a bear simply cannot do. Bears can stand and even take a few steps on 2 legs, but they do not walk long distances upright, and they definitely don't have a relaxed, human-like arm swing while doing it. Whatever the crew had captured was moving like a humanoid, not an animal native to the forest. It was too tall, too upright, and too coordinated to be any wildlife they knew. To them, it wasn't just unusual, it was impossible to ignore. While the Expedition Bigfoot team had their own dramatic encounters, solo researchers out in the woods have had their moments too. The Virginia sighting. This time, the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization received a report from Virginia, not far from the Kentucky border. Unlike most stories, this one included audio and video. The witness, Harley, had recorded strange vocalizations echoing through the night. Even more surprising, he captured something watching him from a distance one Monday. Later, he discovered unusual tracks about 50 yards from the sawmill where he worked. 2 days after that, he spotted a Bigfoot-like figure staring at him from the cliffs behind the mill. Harley had been working at that spot for almost 2 weeks, and everything happened right there during his shift. It was September 23, 2020, around 1:45 p.m. The encounter lasted over 5 minutes, but for Harley, who did not believe in Bigfoot at the time, it felt much longer. That day, he suddenly heard a deep growl from the tree line close to where he was standing. He looked around, trying to see what was there, but nothing moved. Then he heard it again. When he glanced up at the cliff, he noticed something peeking from behind a tree. It kept slipping in and out of view, but eventually he managed to get a picture. Then something even stranger happened. His phone died instantly. According to him, the phone has not worked properly since. At first, Harley assumed it was a bear because of its color, but the creature's movements were nothing like a bear's. It peeked from behind the trees, almost as if it were studying him. The behavior seemed curious, even aware. Harley grew up around wildlife, so he knew how a bear should move, and this was not the same. The encounter did not end there. About an hour after dark, around 9:30 p.m., he heard more strange vocalizations from the woods. The noises continued steadily, so Harley pulled out his phone and began recording them as well. According to Harley, the creature was not just large, it also smelled awful. He said the scent hit him from almost 100 yards away, like rotting eggs drifting through the air. Having grown up around wildlife, he knew bears did not smell like that, so the odor left a lasting impression. He later admitted that the smell and everything else from that day stayed in his mind for a long time, almost as if he needed someone else to confirm what he had seen was real. That is why he kept sharing his evidence. Harley told the RMSO that after the encounter, he felt committed to the Bigfoot topic in a way he never had before. He hoped that by being honest about his own experience, he could help others feel more comfortable talking about theirs. He sent the research group the recording he made that night, placing his phone on the compressor of his truck so he could keep his hands free while listening to the strange sounds. When the RMSO studied the audio, they noticed creaking and machinery in the background, which made them curious about what Harley had been doing at the time. Harley explained that he had been sitting in his truck finishing the week's paperwork from the auction, making sure no one came around after dark before he locked up and left. Being alone at the sawmill late at night was not unusual for him. What he had heard earlier had seemed like wind pushing against the old building, at least until the growls started. After the encounter, Harley went out to grab dinner and ended up talking to some older locals. He told them what he had seen and heard. At first, the men were quiet, watching him closely because he was not a local, but eventually one of them referred to the creatures as devil monkeys. That name made Harley uneasy. A week earlier, the sawmill owner had warned him about the usual mountain animals, bears, snakes, and coyotes, and mentioned there were things in the woods far worse. Hearing the old-timers say the same thing gave Harley chills. The RMSO asked him more questions to understand the creature's size, since Harley had seen it during the day. He told them it was definitely taller than him, and he was already 6'6". He also believed it was strong enough to overpower him instantly. When asked about the tracks he had photographed 2 days earlier, he said they were about 50 to 100 yards from the sawmill. He had heard Bigfoot stories before, but finding the tracks so close to his workplace made him reconsider everything. After seeing the creature with his own eyes, he felt certain about what he had encountered. Harley explained that he never would have noticed the creature if not for the growl. That sound made him look up. He saw movement in the brush, then the creature leaning out from behind the trees before stepping back again. After a moment, it turned and walked up the ridge on 2 legs, hunched forward in a way he had never seen a bear move. Every part of its movement matched the descriptions the RMSO was familiar with, and if it was not Bigfoot, it was something extremely close. When the RMSO zoomed in on Harley's picture 350%, they noticed what looked like a faint shimmer around the figure. They believed it could be light shining through the creature's outer layer of fur. To them, it was an incredible image captured only a few hours before the strange, unexplained vocalizations Harley had recorded later that night.